With what very well could be the final trade for the Boston Bruins this NHL trade deadline, the Bruins have acquired another defenseman in exchange for Andrew Zboril and a third-round pick. A pretty interesting trade looking at it on the surface, but gets even more interesting as things go deeper. So we're going to be taking a look at this trade, breaking it down here in this video. Before we do, though, we know that 92% of you guys watching right now are not subscribed to the channel. So if you want to stay up to date with all of the Blackhawks news, everything from this trade deadline and well beyond into the rest of the season, the playoffs, the offseason, make sure to hit the sub button, join us along on this very fun journey that we have covering the Boston Bruins. But like I said, we have a pretty interesting trade that we have to cover. Like I said, Andrew Zboril and a third-round pick are going to Columbus in exchange for right-handed defenseman Andrew Peeke. Now, you know, a pretty interesting trade being made, knowing that the Bruins, are looking for a left-handed defenseman when acquiring a right-handed defenseman in Andrew Peeke. As you can see here from Pierre LeBrun, Bob McKenzie, Darren Dreger, all of the main analysts. Andrew Peeke for Jakub Zboril, with no cap retention for Andrew Peeke coming from Chris Johnson as well, which is another interesting one, as he's making, $2.75 million, which makes a lot of people, especially me, wonder how the Bruins are going to make this under the cap. There's going to have to be a move put in place, whether it's, trading someone here in these final 10 minutes as of recording this, whether it's sending someone on waivers. There's a lot of things the Bruins are going to have to think about when, trying to work in these trades to make this cap work. Right now, they're about, $3 or so million over with the trades they've made already today, including Andrew Peeke. So it's going to be, some movement is going to have to be made is the best way to describe it. But we also have a third-round pick here. There we go. In addition for this trade. So, not a bad one, knowing that Andrew Peeke is under contract for 3 more years at a pretty decent price. And he's also just a very, solid defenseman. He's a Brandon Carlo-style defenseman that uses his size a lot more in the right situations, which is, exactly what the Bruins are looking for. Once again, is the size, the defensive ability, someone who's being physical, which is the same reason they acquired Pat Maroon, except we got a defenseman here on this one. So, it is an interesting one. Jakub Zboril was making 1.13 in the AHL. Was not currently on the Bruins defensive lines, but there is a really interesting reason that I think this trade went down. And I'll describe that here, why this happened. And that is they're planning for the future. Now, Andrew Peeke has 3 years, like I said, remaining on his deal. Currently, as you can see in this graphic, $2.8 million. So, that's a really interesting contract to have for these next 3 years. At the age of 25, someone who's shown a lot of potential just hasn't really been able to stay in the Columbus lineup. But having him on this roster, eventually when Kevin Shattenkirk leave, I think is a very good idea. It's a cheap defenseman that you can get, someone who's shown that they have a lot of potential, but just hasn't really had the opportunity to prove it yet, and is making not too much money, especially with the cap going up over the next few years. I think it's a pretty good idea. I think it's a pretty smart, well-thought-ahead trade that's going to be going over for the future, the way the Bruins are planning on making this team shift as they have been the past few seasons. So, like I said, I think it's a smart trade, one that is going to be one that they're going to have to prove. Andrew Peeke is going to have to prove that he really is that guy that, the Bruins, sorry, I don't know why I'm saying the Blackhawks so much, want him to be. And here's what Jay Fresh, the chart, and what he had to say about it. It says, Andrew Peeke, acquired by Boston, is a physical, defense-only depth right defenseman, carved out of a role of himself in Columbus despite doing very little with the puck, but lost a spot in the lineup and was frequently a healthy scratch. Bruins think he can sort that out, which I absolutely agree with. Kevin Shattenkirk on that third pairing defense, eventually, it's on the final year of his deal here, but eventually will be, moved out of this lineup for a younger, more, potential defenseman. And in this case, Andrew Peeke, I don't hate it. You can see there by his chart, though, as well, that he's not a guy that's going to go up and put some pucks in the net. He's not going to be here skating the puck up and down the ice. Kind of the same situation with Pat Maroon that we've seen, who they acquired earlier. But he's a very solid defenseman. You can't deny that. Depth defenseman for now, but I do believe this contract could certainly put him up to a second line. There's no way he goes above, Charlie McAvoy in the depth chart for the defense, but I can definitely see him being a solid second line pairing if you want to replace him with Brandon Carlo for a game here and there. But He's also is a very big kid. He's, I believe, 6'3", 210 odd pounds. So he definitely has that size on defense. Very physical, which the Bruins needed. That was really, their main addition, their main look for a specific player was the size, the physicality that they're going to need going into the playoffs. So at the end of the day, in a replacement for a third-round pick, a player that's not really in the NHL right now, in exchange for Andrew Peeke, a guy who has proven that he can do it. Now he just needs to actually show it. He believes in himself. The Bruins believe in him, and a very solid defenseman. The only thing that really made me wonder why this trade was done was that it was a right-handed defenseman. I understand that Kevin Shattenkirk is going to be on the way out here eventually, and Andrew Peeke will be a solid replacement for that for the future, which I'm a fan of. We'll say that. But the left defense is very shallow still. Now, we do have Hampus Lindholm on the IR, which is still a huge hole that they are going to fill by the time he gets back. But, I do think that if one of those guys gets injured again, you're going to be still a lot shallow, or very shallow, with not a lot of depth on that side. So maybe they make another move. Maybe they claim someone off waivers, or maybe they kind of ride out with what they have. I don't think it's a horrible idea right now. Parker Wotherspoon, Mason Lohrei, and Matt Grzelcyk, and Hampus Lindholm being added to that. It is a very solid, group of players they have there. But will it really be enough for a playoff run, for a depth playoff run, just to see if someone gets hurt, someone don't work out, someone's not playing well, and to swap them out. So it'll be something to think about at a later date right now. But I do think that this move really solidifies the defense just about to a point where they want to be. Obviously we didn't get an Allmark trade right now. 5 minutes left on this trade deadline for what I have here at the time of recording this. Now, moves do trickle in here at the end usually, pending trade calls and everything. So there will be a few moves afterwards, but I really don't think we're going to see an Allmark trade here today. I don't really think we're going to see a Jake DeBrusk trade here today. We haven't seen anything from those guys yet. So I guess it's kind of, we're sticking with what we have here now. And, overall, I don't think it was a great, full deadline. I don't think it was something that, the Bruins were hoping they would have done on this deadline day. They did have some size, which they wanted to do, but I think that there was a lot of opportunities they missed out on, like Jake DeBrusk, maybe Jacob Lauko, Linus Allmark, the three that really we had rumors on and potential reports on going to the deadline. But I'm not going to speak too much on the whole Bruins deadline here on this video. I'll be doing that in a later one, and as well, I'll be keeping updates on if anything comes in after this. But from right now, seems like this is what the Bruins have done. A move that I don't hate. It's an interesting one that is really you have to look at from another perspective of after the season in Andrew Peeke's contract. I think is the real big part of this. But some moves are going to have to be made to make this trade fit, to make it work out salary-wise. So we'll be seeing what's going on here with this in a little bit. But that's all I got for this video here now. If you did enjoy, make sure to give it a like. Like I said as well, make sure to hit the sub button if you do want to figure out and get up to date with all of the Bruins news as it happens throughout the rest of this season and in the off season and forever and ever and ever. In all seriousness, the sport's been great. Like I said, I've been saying this the past few videos. It's been absolutely insane. The Bruins have been pretty interesting this deadline, and I'm sure this is going to continue for the rest of the season. So that's all I got. Thank you for watching. Hope you have a great day. See you later.